Yo, hello. Welcome in, everyone. I'm never gonna get tired of this background. For those of you who are just now tuning in, because we just started, I'm on a toilet, so anyway, take that literally or unliterally. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm still getting a little bit set up here. Let me go ahead and do a quick message. Due to the podcast style, will not be actively engaging with. All right, let me pin that. Okay. Since this is a podcast, I won't be super interactive with chat. I will be reading what y'all say, of course. But I will not be actively engaging too much. Just to keep the flow of the podcast. But yeah, I hope everyone's having a great day. Listening to some jazz music in the background. Let me know if that's too low, but it should be all right. Today we are talking about what I call the untold secrets of VTubing, but other ways that you could also explain this podcast is things that you wouldn't know unless you really were in VTubing for a while. Kind of like if you were new to VTubing, just looking at it at a beginner stance, you would not know until you really were into it and getting down and dirty into the weeds, learning the hard way about VTubing. And just things that I don't think like a lot of people talk about when it comes to the hardships of VTubing. Really like things that, again, I don't think, it's just not something that we really discuss. Like, I think marketing and promoting is like one thing because everyone kind of talks about like, that's a common thing for people to not complain about, but like to discuss like how difficult it can be. But I think there are some things that are even a level deeper than that we just don't talk about. So I'm excited today to be chatting about that. And yeah, let me turn up the music a little bit. It's hard for me to tell. Sorry. Hopefully that's nice. It's a nice level. I am also loud as shit, so I know that could contribute to that. All right. Well, let me know how that is, mod. But we got nice and jazzy. All right, but yeah, very excited today. I think the next podcast, if y'all are interested, we're going to be doing some hot takes on VTubing with Senna, so I'm very excited for that. But yeah, so let's get into it. What are some things that, not just me, but other people did not know going into VTubing and found out the hard way? I did make a post about this on Twitter. Thank you to all those who responded. And I'm excited to kind of talk about some of the points that people made on the post. So the first one that I wanted to talk about that I find interesting is this thing about finding legitimate programs to run things, and especially legitimate programs that don't cost a lot. Now, I know what like some people are probably thinking, obviously. Everyone knows about VTube Studio, right? Like, it's a pretty common program to use. However, the only way that you can use VTube Studio is if you basically, if you have a Live 2D model. And there are a lot of people that don't or can't afford and don't have a Live 2D model, and it's hard for them to, and that means I can't really use VTube Studio, so they have to resort to using, making their own VRoid model or whatever, and then how you go about finding the programs that run those. I personally have not explored the VRoid realm, so I can't speak too much about the programs that you like, the good programs or whatever. All I know is Live 2D because I was lucky enough to be able to afford like a semi-decent model and then like, do enough research to figure out what programs were best. But it took a while to find those out. And I think when you're getting into VTubing, there are a lot of problems with like trustworthy articles about what programs that you can use and work well. Like there was no like, how to explain this? I feel like a lot of the good programs are ones that like kind of cost a bit to use, and the ones that are like not too costly, but like those ones might not work as well or have as many tutorials. I feel like when I was looking into VTubing in general, there weren't a lot of tutorials on how to do things as a VTuber. And I think it does kind of suck, you know what I mean? Because like you see a lot of tutorials potentially about the same topic, but it really only applies to people who stream with their face or, you know, whatever else. I think that can be a little bit difficult to have to deal with, you know, having to sit through all these tutorials that don't actually apply to VTubing, because there's so many elements to that. So that can be a little bit lame. And I think just in general, like, what I didn't think about or realize was how much computer power it takes to both run a game and also run, you know, VTube Studio and whatever necessary programs that you need in order to have your model on the screen. It sucks. Like, I thought that I had a pretty decent, I don't have the newest top-notch PC build, but I have a decent one, and I still have issues playing games on my computer, and I think that really sucks. And it's only because I run, you know, VTube Studio and VBridger, and then I have to run the game, and then obviously stream. So those like 4 things just put that shit into overdrive, and it sucks because like I remember like when you're, one of the tips when you're getting into streaming in general is like to do test streams and to make sure that the equipment that you have can handle, you know, whatever you're trying to stream. And it's so like, you can stream a game and you'll be fine. But as soon as you add VTube Studio or VBridger or whatever other programs you're using on top of that, you can't stream. Like, it's all laggy and you have to like change all the settings once again. And I feel like that's something that like we don't really talk a lot about. I mean, it sucks that, I don't know, I wish there was like something that was out there that was like, hey, if you're a VTuber, here's the kind, and you want to play these types of games where it's like, for example, new game release Starfield. If you want to play it on like mediums to low settings, this is what kind of like the build that you might need to have, because you also have to handle having VTube Studio and VBridger. And it sucks because obviously you wouldn't know until you get to that point, until pretty much you wouldn't know until it's already too late that you can't handle both the game that you're playing and the model and VTube Studio and whatever, all of that stuff. It really sucks. But yeah, and just to build off of something that Chad is talking about, they're talking about how people will flame you for not having a certain type of model or using a conventional model. Great way to put that. It definitely is very, very frustrating as well. I never understood, and this isn't me like poking or hating on how people phrase things, but I've never understood like why there seemed to be a divide between PNG tubers and VTubers, because to me, I'm like, I feel like we're all in the same community. I don't know, but maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just dumb. But like, I feel like we're all one and the same. Like, you know, we're just slightly different, okay? But like, for the most part, we're doing the same things, really. It's just that PNG tubers may not have as much of like, you know, facial tracking and whatnot, whatever you want to call it. But the same for me, like the idea of VTubing is you're using an avatar to stream. So I'm like, you're using an avatar to stream. I mean, that's kind of like a VTuber, you know? So I never understood that like divide, but I guess it's because people really like flame on others for what type of model that they're using and shit. And like, I think that's just ridiculous. Obviously, I think that's ridiculous. Like, I'm literally a raccoon sitting on a shitter right now. So, sorry. It's just silly. But you know, some people know really well how to use things like Blender and VRoid to create a really cool and unique looking model, and more props to them. I think that tools like VRoid are great because you don't have to put in the financial arm and leg to be able to stream as a quote unquote VTuber. And I think that's really great. And it sucks that people will don't appreciate that kind of thing. But it's just because people don't know what people are probably used to watching or well developed, already in their prime time indie VTubers, or group agency VTubers like Hololive and Ichisanji, who they've got a company backing them. They've got money to afford a really nice stream setup. And it sucks because I don't think we talk enough about how expensive VTubing is and how much we should appreciate the people that are putting in their own time and energy into creating their own assets and whatnot. Because not all of us are gonna look like, the art style of Hololive or the rigging of Nijisanji. You know what I mean? Iron Vertex rigging. Like, we can't all do that. Not to mention that even if you wanted, this is a whole other topic that we'll get into in a second, but even if you wanted to commission people, like actual well-branded companies, quote unquote, like Iron Vertex, you have to get a referral or you have to be an agency. So, like, really, it's not our fault that a lot of the assets and resources that they're just not available for smaller VTubers, like, period. And I think it sucks that people don't, like, outsiders don't really understand that. They don't understand that, like, we just don't have access to it, and thus we can't have that level of, even if we had the money, we couldn't even use it. Like, even if we had the money, we wouldn't be able to purchase those things, because there's so many times that I've tried to commission people and I've been ignored or said no to. Not, and they didn't say this directly, but I knew after finding out who they did accept commissions from, it was because I was a smaller streamer. I had the money, but because I was, like, smaller than the other person that was trying to commission them, they chose them over me. And I've had that happen to me a handful of times, which is really rough. And I don't think people talk about that, how awful commissioning can be in the VTubing space. It really sucks, but let me circle back to that in a little bit. But yeah, again, everybody that makes your own assets and works on your own things, like, you're all awesome and amazing, and it sucks that people who don't understand it can't, like, give you that appreciation that you deserve. But just know that I see it, and I think it's amazing. All right, keep doing what you're doing. Anyway, yes. And yeah, some people who have a setup don't even realize, like I know that there's been some streams that I've seen other streamers who actually have, like, a VTube model, and they use VTube Studio, but they're trying to stream another game that just is not optimized for PC, and so they have to turn on like a Discord reactive instead. And so they're not even using, they have a model, but they can't even use it. And that's, like, something, like, again, like, that's crazy. It sucks, you know what I mean? But, yes. I'm not sure if VTubing started out in 3D, but that would make it ironic, though, for sure. Ironic that 2D is kind of the new net standard when it started off kind of 3D. But I don't know. I'm not really sure. Anyway, yes. Very, very nice. Very nice. Thank you for your comments, by the way. I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Since, again, just a reminder, since this is a podcast, I'm not super engaging with the chat. If I do engage, I'll make sure to explain what y'all are saying to those who are just listening in. But I appreciate everybody and your comments. I am reading it, and y'all are awesome. So thank you. Okay. I guess since we're on the topic of of commissions, let's continue this commission talk. Which is funny because the other idea that I had for the stream topic or the podcast topic was going to be like horror commission stories, which is just, that's gonna take a long time. But next time, because those are crazy. But anyway, let's talk about a little bit about commissions, because I feel like there were a few people on my Twitter post that also commented about how they learned the hard way about commissions, essentially. And yeah, and I definitely learned very difficult lessons through commissioning as well. So with commissions, I think a lot of people, for example, a lot of people ask I see a lot of people asking like how to use things like Skeb, like a basic question like, you know, is it enough to use like Google Translate for Skeb, because, you know, obviously it's all like in Japanese. And I remember when I was looking at Skeb, I also had to do a thorough amount of research to understand what it was, what the rules were essentially with Skeb as well, because there actually are like rules around it. It's not like your standard like Fiverr, for example. It's very like, okay, here's what I would like to request. If the artist accepts it, then they'll work on it and then deliver it to you basically when it's done. I mean, there are like set timelines. Like I think the max is like 3 months or something like that. And if they don't send it to you within that 3 months, then it's automatically canceled and you get your money back. But there are a lot of Skeb artists that apparently just don't even, they accept it, but then they just don't deliver it. And then you have to like, you're sitting there like, you know, you gave the money to them. You're not going to get it back until they cancel it. So you're kind of just like out of like, you know, $70 or $50 or whatever, however much it was. You're just down that until they either give it to you or they don't deliver it within that like 3-month period, which is kind of rough. And it's surprising to me that like like how many people didn't know how to use Skeb. Because, like, Skeb does actually have, like, you know, guidelines, and they're in English, by the way, guidelines on, like, how to use, like, how to use Skeb. And I think what the issue can be is that, like, a lot of people don't want to do the research themselves. And I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but I see this kind of a lot in the VTubing community, or, I mean, it's really in any community, but I see a lot of people asking, like, oh, what about this? What about that? How do I do this? Is this okay? You know, like publicly asking those questions. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, because obviously I'm sure there's another 2 people that have the same question as them. But I think the issue is that like when I was getting into VTubing, I had to do all my research on my own. And even to this day, I still do most of my research, if not all, by myself. Because like at the end of the day, I'm going to absorb information in a different way than somebody else is going to. So I think like doing the research myself helps me better tailor whatever information I'm taking into what I want to do for Kōri. And I think like I remember like being semi-annoyed about this, or like before, like how many people would ask me about like this or that. And I'm not the kind of person that like wants to gatekeep information, you know what I mean? But a lot of people do. A lot of people gatekeep information, and they don't talk about, well, this is how I commissioned this, or like in order to, we kind of touched on this the other day, but something as simple or seemingly as simple as like, hey, I want to do a cover song. Okay, well, if you want to do what is standardly called like the right way to do a cover song, and I'm only saying that because there is no right way necessarily, but common practice for, you know, getting your cover song out there is to, you know, you have to commission artwork for it of your VTuber. So that means that's an arm right there, a financial arm right there. You got to commission some artwork for that. And then you have to commission an MV if you're not able to do the artwork, or if you're not able to do the video editing, you have to commission the MV, which is another leg right there for financially. And then obviously you have to do the cover. you have to be able to mix it, your vocals and whatnot, which is, if you don't know how to do that, you have to pay someone to do that. There's the other leg. And then, or if you can do it, then that's great. But then if you don't have, if the karaoke version of that song is not readily available, then you have to also pay for that, which is the other arm. So basically, it's like all of that, plus you need to market the cover as well. So that means, creating any marketing materials or collateral, so that way you can like hype it up a little bit, making a trailer. Again, if you don't know how to do any video editing things, that may or may not be difficult. So that's basically, and that takes like at least a month. If you were like hardcore working on it, I mean like working on it almost every day, that'd still probably be like, a good couple of weeks or a month. And so, but people don't talk about like how, like they don't talk about breaking it down that way. It's just like, hey, I want to do a cover song. Okay, let's do it. And because I feel like it's almost like people think it's so easy to do a collab that they think like, I've heard like collabs be related to like project collabs too, but to me that's different. Like, for example, somebody DM'd me and was like, let's do a collab sometime. Like, oh, I was thinking maybe we could do like a duet or something like that. And I'm like, oh, that's what you mean by collab, which it makes sense. Okay, now I understand it. But I remember like initially, like if I were to read the word collab, I would assume on stream. Maybe this is just me. I would assume on stream. And if people are thinking like, oh, collabing on stream and collabing off stream are very similar, then to me, like personally, that's just wrong, because like, collabing on stream for me is a lot easier, because I'm just like, okay, and I'm sure most people can agree, for the most part, it's easy. You just have to set a date, set a time, set a game, and then maybe get like set up their model or their PNG or whatever, and then you stream it, right? It's pretty straightforward. But with things like a cover song or any other project, since I'm talking about a cover song, I'm just gonna pretend like that's let's pretend like that's what's going on. Like I did a collaborative song with other VTubers, bless them. This is not me getting at them, by the way, by any means, what I'm about to talk about, but I did a collaborative song with a couple other VTubers, and that was a big project to manage. And there was a lot of layers to that like was difficult, that I can't, like, obviously it was a little bit of a bigger scale. If I was just doing it with one person, it'd probably be very easier, because like, you're just having to handle one other person. But I had to manage like 5? I don't know. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I can't count. Math is not my strong suit. Anyway, but yeah, I had to manage like a couple other people for the project. And that I had to record, I had to obviously make the song, produce it. I had to record a vocal track that they could follow. And then they had to practice it. So I had to wait for them to be able, like, give them enough time to practice it. And then I had to get their recordings. And then with the recordings too, like even though I sent them like recording tips, like, okay, be this far away from your mic, do this, do that, right? Like some of the recordings were still a little bit difficult to work with, and that's not their fault. Okay, I'm not blaming anyone. All right, it's all good. It ended up amazing at the end of the day. But when you're handling somebody else's, like, you're basically having to handle somebody else's like setup as well, right? Because like they don't have the same setup as you. And I think, again, like doing things like cover songs and off-stream projects is really like really difficult. And again, like I feel like people gatekeep like how difficult it is, or like, make it seem like it's not that hard. I don't really know what it is. I can't put a finger on it, but I just feel like people just period do not talk about how difficult it is to manage those kind of projects off of stream. And they say collab, but to me a collab is on stream and like very easy to do. It's really straightforward. But when you do a collab, that a quote unquote project collab is what I would like to call it, it's got a lot more back and forth, and you have to have a synergy with the person or people that you're talking with, because like otherwise you're just all out of sync, and it's just like you're not able to get like it's just gonna be difficult. And not to mention, like, even after I got everybody's recordings, some people had to re-record. That was great. We got the re-recording. Okay, I had things to work with. I had to spend, and I had to do this project within basically like a month or two, which was very, why did I do this? Which is very, why did I do this moment? But, you know, and I basically had to mix and master all of their vocals. And obviously, like, each one, I had to do it a little differently, because like with my vocals, if it was just me, I know how to mix and master my vocals pretty well, because I've done it, you know, so many times. And obviously, like, it's one, like, I recorded it on one mic, and like, let's just pretend like it's all just one track, right? It's just one take basically. And so I can just edit that one take with like reverb and this and that, right? But then with everybody else's take, I have to, like, I can't just copy and paste, you know what I mean? It's like, I also have to, like, go in and, like, listen to their voice 100 times and add these things that I think would help or don't help, you know, and take that out. So it's a very, like, long process to mix and master, not just your own vocals, but, like, other people's vocals that have different kind of mics and different recordings. And again, like, I can't it's a lot of work, and people make it seem like it's so easy to just like, oh yeah, let's do a cover song with a bunch of people, and it's like, well, it's not that simple. It's not that simple. I wish it was that simple, but it's not. And yeah, it's very much like having to, as chat put it, thank you, being a manager for an entire idol group with no pay. I also did the MV. I also edited the MV as well for that. I mean, it was really basic, but I still did it. Okay. Anyway, but yes, it's there you go. Let's stop gatekeeping how difficult it is to do projects. And also let's listen to people when they do talk about how difficult the projects are, because I do see a lot of times, like, when somebody starts talking about like, oh, hey, like, you know, this is what I had to do this project, a lot of people tune out. But then it's the same people that tune out that ask the questions like, how do I do this? Like, well, maybe if you actually, you know, listened, then you would know. I'm just kidding. This is not me hating anybody, but I'm just saying. Anyway, there was also, like, to branch off of, like, the idea of people gatekeeping information and whatnot. I actually had this idea. I was juggling it around for a while. This series of, like, VTuber help. I wanted to do a VTuber help series that talked about, like, you know, getting started or this and that. But I ultimately decided not to do it because I feel like, again, people should do their own research, and obviously, yeah, I could potentially add something new to the table, right? But I feel like everybody, like, I don't know if this sounds weird, but I just feel like people who have done those videos, you probably want to, like, trust them. And I feel like I'm still not at that stage where, like, I can say, like, oh yeah, I'm a top-notch VTuber, because I'm definitely not, and that's okay, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying, like, I don't think, I wouldn't trust myself. Like, I would rather go click on somebody else's video that was a bigger VTuber, most likely, right? Because then that means that they made it and things and that. So, blah, 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 blah. But also, like, I feel like most people, if they sit through a tutorial on YouTube or a video on YouTube for the full 10 minutes, then they're gonna do the research that they need to do. If now there's more than likely, there's gonna be people that sit on the first 1 minute of the video and then leave and then bookmark it and not watch it later, or skip around and just get the highlights or watch the very end of the video. More likely there are people like that, because I see so many people continue to just ask questions on Twitter, and sometimes receiving a response and usually not receiving a response. And I feel bad for them, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's like, hey, unfortunately, you've got to do your own research. And yeah, and it also sucks that, unfortunately, a lot of people gatekeep information. in the VTubing community, because you don't see the big hotshot indie VTubers talking about, oh man, like until drama breaks out, they don't really talk about like the things that it took for them to do a certain project or whatever. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying. All right. Anyway, yeah, I don't think I'll be doing that VTuber Help series. I just feel like if you want to learn something about VTubing, you can come to the podcast or you can watch other people's videos, because there's so many out there now, so many tutorials. And if you have the drive to become a VTuber, then you will sit and watch those videos. There's not much else that I could say outside of like what they say, most likely. All that I have to say are complaints. So so you can just learn from my mistakes. That's what I'm saying. I'm just kidding. But yes. In the chat, they're talking about the mixing and stuff like that, mixing songs, because that's what we were talking about earlier with mixing music and whatnot. It is definitely a challenge, you know, and as Sin is saying, re-recording lines is also very difficult. Because because then you when you re-record a line, like it's you moved, right? Your mic moved, or your setting might have changed since the last time that you recorded. So now you've got a re-recorded line that like just does not fit with what you already have. So you have to like edit it obviously differently. Oh my god, it's very difficult, and it takes a lot of time and practice, and when you don't have the right programs for it too, because like I said, when I got into doing music, I was using Audacity. I was using Audacity, a free program, and I was mixing and mastering my vocals there, and it worked, but it was a huge learning curve, and you have to watch so many tutorials just to like do bare minimum reverb. You know what I mean? And it's very frustrating. But yeah, again, if you can do it, like, I just want you to know, whoever's working on those things and big projects out there, that I hear you and I see your hard work, and I think it's amazing, and please keep doing it, okay? Because I know that it's really difficult, and the fact that you're doing it is a step in the right direction. It doesn't matter if you feel like you're doing it for maybe like one or two people in your community because you don't feel like you're a big enough streamer, you have a small community, but you're gonna do it for those two people that really support you, or you're doing it for yourself. At the end of the day, like, it's amazing that you're doing it at all. So please know that. And it's something that I've had to learn the hard way too. Again, learning the hard way on how to appreciate and love, be passionate about the work that you are putting in for these projects yourself. Like, you have to be excited about it. You can't expect anyone else to be excited about it. Seriously. I put in, just again, like I always talk about the album, but let me talk about the game, because everyone knows the album story already. The game, I put in like 130 hours more on the game. Probably more like 200 hours probably on my first game. And when I was working on it, I was just plain out, just I was excited about it. I hadn't announced it to anyone until it was like pretty much almost done. And like I was just excited about having a game. And when I released it, I didn't expect anyone at all to play it. But the fact that there were people that did, like, it blew me away. It felt great. It was a great feeling. And I think, like, going into something, having, like, just being happy about what you're doing and passionate about it, and then, like, seeing the results, like, of some people picking it up is probably, like, one of the best feelings, like, most rewarding feelings. Because I never expected anyone to play the game. Seriously. I expected 0 people. Maybe my mom. And she didn't even play it. I'm just kidding. But, like, I didn't expect anyone to play the game. So then when people did, I was blown away. And it meant the world to me. Because I was just happy about it myself. I just thought it was cool myself. Like, it was a dream come true that I got to make a visual novel game. Because I grew up, like, just playing visual novels. and obviously English degree. So it was a really great moment for me. But again, I had to learn again. Prior to that, I had to learn that I needed to be excited about those projects. And even if nobody picks it up, even if nobody cares, at least I can say that I did that and I'm happy that I did it. You know what I mean? So yeah, be happy about your projects. Be passionate about it. Love what you're doing. Because and that passion and that love will rub off on the people around you, and your community will see it. And I think that's, again, one of the best feelings to have. Kind of like following up on that, a comment that we received on Twitter about, this question. Someone mentioned that they needed to be, they realized that you weren't going to blow up as a VTuber. Like, as you got started, you're not going to, you won't blow up. But what you find more value in and becomes more, worthwhile is the small community of people that you have and that they care about. They care about your content, and that small community becomes much more valuable than necessarily the idea of blowing up. Obviously, yeah, we all want to blow up, sure. But like having this small community, this intimate community, can sometimes mean so much more than just having 100 people watching you that don't give a shit. I literally on the other day, and this is not me calling anyone out, by the way, but the other day, I just have to say it because it's a funny story. The other day, I saw someone that was sorry, words, Kōri, don't be nice, Kōri. Okay, there was fuck it, I'm Ack, I can be a bitch. Anyway, I'm Ack, I can be an asshole. Yeah, there was someone who was literally such a bitch to me in DMs before, and they were just such a rude fucking person, and they were recommended to me on Twitch or something like that. And I saw that they like had a new model, and their model was, this is not what their model was like before, by the way, and I have nothing against these types of models, but I'm just saying that their model was just like half the screen was big old titties, okay? Just gigantic titties. Their head was like a little like penny on the screen. It was like a tiny little circle and then tiggle bitties. All right, nothing wrong with that. If you want to watch tiggle bitties, you can watch tiggle bitties. But I remember thinking like, oh wow, they've got like 130 people watching them right now. Are they watching them? Are they watching them, or are they watching the titas? Okay, I don't know. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to watch the tatas while, they're playing whatever game, and how they move and jiggle, that's fine. You can do that. All right, nothing against that. But I realize that, again, like, I'm happier with a smaller community that actually appreciates my content for what it is, and not because I have, half of my screen being big old tatas. Again, nothing wrong with that, but that's just the kind of creator that I am. If you're a creator that wants your chat to watch you because you have big old tatas on the screen, then that's fine. I respect that. You know what I mean? But they're there for your tatas. They're not there for your personality. Most likely. Most likely they're not there for that. So I'm just saying, and you probably understand that if that's the kind of streamer that you want to be. So yeah, I think, like, again, realizing that you need to be happy, or not need to be happy, but you have people that do support you because of who you are is so great and so valuable. And it honestly just leads you to have a better mental headspace, because so many people get into VTubing thinking that they're going to be the next, like, Hololive or whatever. But that's just not realistic. That's not how that is. That's always just a 1% of people in anything, is that they blow up. And what keeps you going is that mental fortitude of knowing that you have people supporting you no matter what. Well, maybe not no matter what, but, supporting you for you. And you have to have that in order to keep going steady and consistent with something like content creation, because content creation is fucking tiring. There's so there's so much into it, and it's just tiring. You know what I mean? I know y'all know, but just have to reiterate. Anyway, on that topic, promoting yourself is something that someone else commented on the post, and they were talking about how they found it hard to promote themselves because they felt like it was just weird, or like people would find it weird or strange, or yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but I know what they mean. Like, they just feel like uncomfortable almost, like promoting themselves, like as if it was like, oh, like try to be like almost maybe coming off as like narcissistic perhaps. This is not them what they said, by the way, but I'm just saying, like trying to you know trying to explain, like, you know, what I think they were talking about. And I feel like this is an interesting point because sometimes, like, you don't want to come across as like, oh, me, but at the same time it's like you have to talk about the things that you're doing. And oftentimes self-promoting actually doesn't always work, unless, I mean, self-promoting depends. Obviously there's like the mainstream easy pickings posts that are like, hey, I'm looking for VTuber friends or people to collab with, or you know, I'm new to VTubing, drop your PNGs and like let's hang out, or do Twitch raids or whatever. There's like the easy bait and switch interact posts. Everyone has done it, or if you haven't, then, you know, more props to you. But most people have done it. There's nothing wrong with them. But I'm just saying that there's that kind of like self-promotion that I think some people can potentially feel resistant against, because a lot of people see, like, I see a lot of people on Twitter. I mean, people on Twitter complain about anything and everything. Let's be real. You could literally like fart and someone will complain about it. You know what I mean? So I just feel like there's people like complaining about like, oh, I remember, like, for example, when I first got into VTubing, there were things called VTuber networking threads, and people always complained about like how everybody on the networking threads just like followed the person who posted the networking thread, and the person who posted the networking thread doesn't do anything else with it. Like, they don't engage with anyone that posted on the networking thread. They just make it and then like reap the rewards. When I was on when I did VTuber networking threads, I actually like didn't even really look at the this is just how I handle it, but I didn't even look at the person who posted it. I would just like look at the people who commented and just like network with the people that commented. And I think that's really how you should use them. If you are to use a similar type of post, like even like the Twitch raid or the looking for people to collab with kind of posts, like you can talk to the people on there. The posts are public, like all their comments are public. You can also talk. It's not just like, it's not only the person who made the main post is the one who talks to everybody. Like, that's not how it should be. You know what I mean? So that's how I used it, but there were people that were critiquing like those type of posts, and personally, like, I understand, but at the same time, it's like, it makes sense for when you're an early day VTuber, because like it's so much time to like look for people to network with, because like a lot of the times your feed, or like if you went on a hashtag on Twitter and you went on like the trending, or usually like the trending ones are people who are already big VTubers, so let's be real, they're not going to talk to you. And then if you go to like the most recent posts, you might get some of the small streamers in there, but for the most part, unfortunately, they're filled with fucking bots and GFX artists, because Twitter can't get their shit together. Oh, excuse me, it's called X. Anyway, fucking Elon Musk. I'm just kidding. But you know, like, it's really hard to find other VTubers. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all to like contribute to those posts or to make one, as long as you're being honest about like what you're doing. Like, I don't like the ones that are so clearly like, I remember there was this one trending the other day that was like, oh, comment now, locking comments in 24 hours. I thought it was a joke, because I remember like back in like when Facebook existed, like people would post shit like that. Like, oh, I'm gonna delete this post in 24 hours, comment now. So I was like, are we doing like a boomer joke right now? Like, are we doing like a callback? Maybe it's just because I'm a boomer, but all I'm saying is that things like that are a little bit silly to me. And obviously, like, I don't think people should be like, I'm looking for friends. Like, your definition of friend is different from everybody else's, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've talked about this so many times. I just think there's a way to go about promoting yourself, and in a way that's like, okay, you can follow some of like the trends, because let's be real, like in order for you to break the market, you need to kind of be a little bit mainstream at first, so that way you can get into the market, get a foot into the market, and then you can break the market, okay? But yeah, you know, like, at least that's in my opinion, but I think, yeah, like, you kind of have to, I understand, like, you know, having to do some of those, like, not like the friendship circles, but like maybe like more so the Twitch raids, or like the, hey, looking for people to collab with, as long as you actually try to collab with some of those people, you know, I think it's fine. But yeah, I think promoting yourself can be really weird and difficult, because if you're the type of person that, and let's be real, most of us, if not all, pretty much all of us are introverts, right? Like, we don't really know how to, we're so nervous about, or most of us are very nervous about the way that we come across to others, right? And we just like don't want to seem like a bitch. And we don't want to seem like full of ourselves, you know, we want people to like us. And so that means but we also need to get our name out there. So it's like, how do we come across as like friendly and not self-absorbed, but still promote ourselves, right? And I mean, if you want like, if you want my personal advice, something that I think is fine and helpful, and you're able to somewhat promote yourself, it's not always like, it's not the easiest route from what I've found, but something that, like, my advice to you, if you would like to try, it's just, you know, it's not 100% win rate, all right? But like, you can try posting a PNG of your model, or something, you know, about your model, like a little GIF or a little video of your model doing a little, you know, peeking, or a little tail wag, as I'm doing with Ack right now. You know, you can post that and post a question. People love, like, Twitter is a place where people want to talk about their opinions. Like, that's kind of how the fucking platform has been built, is based on people wanting to talk about their opinions. Let's be real. So like, ask a question, and people will come and they'll answer your question, and then more people will be like, hey, I want to answer this question too, I want to be part of this conversation. Like, you know, that seems to have helped me not like have to self-promote myself in a way that's like comes across as like, at least to me, comes across as like self-absorbed, but like instead I can, like, you know, ask a question to other people and obviously respond to them, because I'm not just going to like interact bait, but, you know, just like post something, ask a question, have like an image of your model or something like that, because in that sense you're still promoting yourself, because like, hey, here's my model, here's me, like getting your face out there, you know what I mean? And then people engage with it, and you can talk to them, and if you like their personality, if you're bouncing off each other, if you like their answer, you know, you can engage with them some more, and like make more organic interactions that way, versus like, you know, a little bit more strange things like summoning circles. So yes, maybe try that is my suggestion, but obviously to each their own. Do whatever you're comfortable with. Yeah, anyway. There's a question in the chat from Kay asking about how those posts about, I think you're referring to the like networking thread kind of posts, how, if they actually work, and that you've been too afraid to go on them because you don't want to get yelled at for approaching someone on Twitter. Is that a thing? Do people actually yell at each other? Do people actually yell at each other for approaching others on Twitter? That is just awful. Oh man, Twitter's, that's what I mean. Twitter's just like built on like rage. Twitter's just built on people like being angry about things and just like wanting to post their opinions, like I think sometimes it does. In my opinion, yes, the networking threads do sometimes work. Personally, like how I met some wonderful people, like Senna, for example, I actually posted a what I call a VTuber compliment stream, and it's basically, it's like, you know, the premise of the post is like, drop your PNG, I'm gonna stream and have you up on stream, and I'm gonna only say compliments about your model. No matter what it is, I'm only gonna compliment it. Nothing bad, no evil, you know, only good shit, okay? And I met Cinna through that thread, and obviously, like, it blows up. You get fucking an absurd amount of people commenting. You get to see a lot of really cool models and designs, and I think that does help for for my research when I'm like, okay, do I, like, what if I want to make an outfit, or like, what if I want to do this, or like, you know, with my model, I was able to, like, okay, get a bunch of people's designs and like, what do I want to do with mine? So it actually has multiple reasons why it's nice. But also, like, you know, you have to realize that, yeah, it blows up, you get to see a lot of designs, and people obviously are like, oh, what do they have to say about me? Not that that's how they sound, but, you know. But then after the fact, there's only going to be maybe 1 or 2 people that stick around. Out of the 200 people that you went through and talked to and complimented, probably only a few will stick around, if that. You can't expect much. But the good news is that, you know, you did it, you put yourself out there, and you did meet some people through it, and have some people who, hey, found your content, liked your content, and decided to stay. So yeah, and obviously, like, as a streamer, again, something that we don't always talk about, and you don't find out until you have to learn the hard way, is that a lot of the times when you're working on content, as a content creator, obviously, like, you have to decide whether or not you want certain mediums of content to actually reflect, like, what you do on stream or not. For example, we talked about this a couple days ago. I have to burp, sorry. Okay, I go up to down. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna toilet. We talked about how with like YouTube Shorts, for example, a lot of YouTube Shorts do well if you ask a question first, like, you kind of like bait them into watching the rest of the short. But the problem is that then you have to create shorts, like, you literally have to create content just for shorts. And the other issue is that, is this content for YouTube Shorts reflective of my content for the stream? And I personally, like, I ask questions on the stream, but, like, that's not very reflective of, like, what I actually do on stream. And so personally, I don't always feel comfortable. I'm not saying that this is bad, by the way. I'm just saying personally, I don't always feel comfortable creating content that is not representative of what I do on stream, because, like, I'm a streamer, like, that's my main thing, is that I stream, right? So it's like, I want to make sure that like, I personally want to have most of my content that's out there be reflective of, like, at least my personality, you know, if not the actual content I have on stream. And that can be difficult because like, you know, talking about TikTok, you just use sounds, and those sounds are never really, you know, reflective of your stream content, right? But, you know, you can at least try to use sounds that are silly, or if you're a type of streamer that's a little bit NSFW, you can use, like, more sexy kind of, you know, sounds and whatnot, songs, whatever. I don't know how TikTok works. Anyway, but all I'm saying is that you kind of have to, like, decide whether or not, you know, you want to make content for each type of platform, like, perfectly tailored for it, or do you want to, like, just, you know, F it and be like, okay, this is my content, I'm putting this, like, across everything. If I get somebody who likes the content on TikTok, hopefully they'll come to the stream and it's, like, the same kind of content. We're not like clickbaiting people into something that's not what I do on stream. You know what I mean? Like, what you see is what you get. You know what I mean? But there's nothing wrong with people who do tailor their. I think it's actually very impressive, people who tailor each article of content to each particular medium of social media, right? Like, that's really impressive, and it takes so much time and energy and effort. And it is technically the most efficient way to grow, but obviously the time and energy and effort is sometimes, like, not always what we have, right? But again, that's not something that I think we talk about a lot, is how every social media platform has a way that you're supposed to, like, algorithms and way that you're supposed to market yourself, and it's just like, oh my god, it's a fucking maelstrom of just like shit, okay? It's like the worst thing ever. I hate researching, like, and it sucks because, like, even with things like YouTube, right, it changes like every other month, like the algorithm, or like what's trending, or like certain keywords and this and that. Like, if you really wanted to be successful as a content creator, you kind of have to like follow all those things, and it's just insane because then it doesn't give you time, like, realistically, does it give you time to be yourself and to work on things that you're content and happy with, right? Not really. the truth is, not really, right? And I feel like you stray farther and farther away from like just being happy, you know, because you have to like do all this fucking research at that point. Like, so that's not why I got into this. I didn't get into this to read articles all day on a Saturday afternoon, okay? My god. Instead, I want to be a fucking raccoon on a toilet, god damn it. Let me be. Let me be, alright? Anyway, yes. The YouTube Shorts scene is very, very wild, and I'm very happy that I found Sita through the what is it called? I don't even know, the compliment streams. Yes, I think, again, like, if you want to promote yourself and network, I think those are really great ways to do that. But yeah, obviously you just gotta have to, and I also found out that, like, really, just fucking tweet. Like, I know it sounds silly, even if you don't get anyone, like, engaging with it at first, just tweet. And also, I found that, like, just engaging with other creators in general, like, it works. Like, just be around, like, let your name be known, okay? And it does work. Just you gotta have to put the time in, and that's the hardest thing, because social media is such a cesspool of shit, you know, and it's like every time you log into Twitter, there's some new fucking drama going on, and it's like you just get absorbed into it. If you're the type of person I am, I love trash TV, if that tells you anything about myself. But you know, like, sometimes you get absorbed with it, sometimes you try to ignore it, sometimes, like, it's just every other post is that drama article. And, like, it wears down on you so easily, so I totally get it. Tweeting and Twitter and social media is, like, can be the worst thing, but if you want to promote yourself, the best way is to engage with others as best you can, and to put yourself out there, obviously, and know that, like, everybody in the community understands. At the end of the day, as long as you're not, like, being an asshole to people and making really controversial, weird remarks, like, as long as you're not hurting anyone, okay, you're doing fine. You're doing your best, and we all understand. Every VTuber understands having to promote themselves, okay? So don't worry about it. It's gonna be okay. Yes. So yes, we're talking about VTuber drama in the chat, for those of you who are listening in. And we're talking about, Sita likes to say, what's the VTuber drama of the week? And I feel that, honestly, same. And the drama posts, the twit longers, everybody. And then Kay is saying, you can always grow by being the drama of the week. That is true. We could do that. I've seen many people just post controversial shit every other day, and eventually one of them blows up, and then they get canceled, so. So yeah, you can always do that, but I mean, I don't know. Again, it's whatever you're comfortable with, but drama is always going to be there. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about, I love that all these topics are melding together, because, I mean, I guess it makes sense, but to me, it's like, it's in different places on my little notepad thing, so let's talk about this, all right? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about how, talking to people and engaging with others on Twitter, right? We were discussing that just a second ago. I feel like something that you wouldn't know if you were getting into VTubing, and that I don't think you would understand until you had 20 people in your DMs making a huge fuss and trauma dumping. I'm just kidding, but no, I'm just messing. But basically, I don't think something that most people talk about is the fact that, like, There are so many people that, like, I think almost every day I'll see somebody post something like, I'm an introvert, so I'm really shy and it's hard for me to reach out to people, and, you know, I'm shy, please engage with this post if we can be friends. I'm shy, I can't do this. I'm an introvert, I will not do this. You know, like, I've seen a lot of, like, cannot, will not, because I am socially awkward, or I'm shy, or I'm an introvert. And it's like this analogy came to me, and please let me know if this doesn't make sense, but I thought about how it's kind of like elementary school, where like you see, like, you think people wearing like a cask, or a cast, there you go, a casket, sorry, wearing a cast or a crutch is like a cool, or like using a crutch is like a cool thing, you know, because like, oh, you know, like now you got hurt, you know, something happened, now you've got the story to tell, and now people want to hear it, like, you just want to tell your story so that people can give you attention, you know. It almost feels like people are using this idea of like being shy, being an introvert as a crutch to make people like to make people give them attention, essentially. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what I thought of. I thought about elementary school when I was thinking about VTubing, so sounds about right? Anyway, so yes, yeah, I think it's really interesting because I don't know. I just think it's just annoying. I don't know. I'm sorry. There are some people who are actually, like, again, I think most of us are shy to an extent, introverted to an extent. That's why we're in VTubing. We're using an avatar to, you know, be anonymous or to not have to show our face because we're a little shy or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. Okay, I get it to an extent. But I think what sucks is that, as the chat is alluding to, a lot of people who post, like, or many of them that post like, oh, I'm shy, please comment if you want to be friends, I'm just so shy. Like, not that they sound like that, sorry, but like, a lot of people who post that, like, also don't respond to people who do, like, who do interact with it, or like, it's just bad, like, or just like when they do get into your DMs, it's like they're just crazy. Respectfully, they're just kind of crazy. Like, people just are always like, oh, it just frustrates me. Seeing people like, oh, I'm shy, I'm an introvert, boo-hoo. And then you make people pity you and come to your rescue, basically do the work for you. Basically like, okay, here's a handout, here's a piece of candy, here you go. And then like, once they show you that kindness, these people who claim they're shy, claim they're an introvert, they're all up in your DMs and they're being crazy. And maybe not all of them, okay? I promise it's not all of them, but a majority of the people that I have interacted with, actually, pretty much all the people that I've interacted with that claims that they were shy or introverted were all weird, or not like weird, I just mean like just like not, I don't know, they're very like self-absorbed, and I don't know if that's just a just because like they don't know how to talk to people. I can't blame them for that, but just like, I don't know, there's just this level of just like weird. Like, I don't know, it's just like, I've had all the issues, like the long-term issues that I've had, many of them were people that claims that they were shy and introverted, and then when they get into your DMs, they're sending you long, ridiculous paragraphs about this and that and this and that, trauma dumping, and not even asking you how your day's going. And if you're shy, if you are introverted, I think usually, at least like, not all the time, but sometimes you do come to appreciate the people that do listen to you and that did reach out and that did, you know, come to your rescue when you said, hey, I'm having a hard time reaching out to people. And so the least you could do is say, hey, how are you doing, right? You would think, right? But I don't feel like most of these people are actually like real. Like I don't think they're actually like being real about like how shy they are or how introverted they are, because like I don't know if they're just like jumping on like a trend because other indie VTubers have said that and like blown up and whatnot. But it's just like, I don't know. It's just, I can't speak for everyone like on how you treat others or how an introvert commonly is. I don't really know. I just know how I act. And I know that like I personally, if somebody has treated me kindly, I'm going to tell them, hey, you're treating me really nice. I appreciate you. Okay. And I just think that's like a nice way, just common human decency. You know what I mean? I just think that's like, okay, let's be cool here, you know? But I don't know. Some people don't really know how to communicate with others, and I can't fault them for that. I know that those people exist. I know people who don't know how to communicate to others exist, but like at the same time, there's like no one telling them like, hey, it hurts my feelings that you're not like, it hurts my feelings that you're not, you know, being a decent human being. But at the same time, you don't want to say that because then next thing you know, they're going to cancel you. And you're going to be like, look at what Kōri-Oujo said. Kōri-Oujo said that I'm not a decent human being. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'll again, most of the long-term issues, if not all, that I've had in the DMs were people who claimed that they were shy and introverted, but just blew things up, man. Just blew things up, or just did not know how to treat someone. And it was just like, even if I mentioned like explain that I was uncomfortable or mentioned something, it still never clicked, you know? And I don't know if that's just because they are all a little bit self-absorbed in some sort of way. And it's okay to be self-absorbed to an extent, okay? We're all kind of like somewhat self-absorbed because we're streaming to people online. We are literally trying to, you know, some of us are trying to get popular, you know what I mean? We're all self-absorbed to some extent. I'm sure not many people would complain about blowing up, quote unquote, right? So it's okay, but I just mean like treating people with respect and like these whole like bait and switch kind of like posts where it's like, oh, I'm shy, oh, not saying that you sound like that, but you know, I'm just saying it's tough to listen to and then find out that they're like completely not what they're putting out, basically. So yes, High School 2.0 has been said in the chat, and I agree with that. It is 100% High School 2.0. I mean, we were talking about elementary school earlier. It's bad, but and the trauma dumping thing is like something that has never ended, and it's just like, I don't know. I wish it would though. And I also understand there's a point being made in the chat about not being able to get over the anxiety of like talking to others. And I totally get it. Like seriously, don't get me wrong. It is really, it's hard. Like I get anxiety every time I get a DM. Now at this point, I get anxiety every time I get a DM. I'm just kidding. But like, I just get really nervous because I'm just like, oh no, what's gonna happen? I remember there's like recently talking about DM stories. I had somebody literally, I don't get this. I don't understand this. Like I give them props for reaching out and being somewhat respectful, but I just don't understand. Like they were just like, hey, you seem chill. So I wanted to introduce myself and say hi. And that was all they said. And I was like, what do you want me to do with this? Respectfully, what do I do with this? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's a nice DM amongst all the other DMs that I've gotten in the past, but I don't really know how to respond. I'm like, yes, nice to meet you, I guess. Didn't like actually introduce themselves, so I still don't know who they are, but you know, I just said thank you and hope you're having a great day and nice to meet you as well, and that was pretty much it. But I mean, I give them props for reaching out and being like a nicer DM than some of the other DMs I've gotten, but I don't know, it's weird. I always don't understand like things like that. I've also gotten like DMs of from people who are like, oh, I really want to talk to you about, let's talk about, like, let's pretend like it's, example, song making. Like, I really want to talk to you about your music and song, like, not even my music, just song creation in general. I really want to talk to you about that. And that was pretty much all the message. There was no question. It was just like, and then they just went on about like how much they enjoyed song creation. I'm just kind of like, what do I say? What is the question? What do I respond with, you know? But again, I give props to people who do try to reach out and like in a semi like decent manner, you know? Obviously, it's like, we can't be perfect, okay? And I know that I have also made mistakes when I've interacted with people. Do not get me wrong. I have made many mistakes, okay? I'm not perfect, all right? But the other day, it's like, you know, I'm trying to learn from those mistakes. I'm trying to like continue to communicate with others when I notice things that maybe make me uncomfortable, or even when I notice things that make me comfortable. I want to communicate that because it's like, I think it's good to tell people and reaffirm like, hey, you're doing something good here. You know what I mean? There's this one instance where there was someone who was sort of a part of my community. I don't want to say too much because I don't want it to seem like I'm calling them out, because it has a good ending. Let me start it off with that. But there was someone who basically like created like, there's amongst other things that happened. They created like this site where it was almost like, I don't really know how else to explain it, but they created like this site where they had a bunch of other VTubers that they supported. It was kind of like a VTuber support site, but it was like a personal one to them. Like, it was all the VTubers that they were supporting, and I don't know if that makes any sense. It's kind of weird to explain because it's not something that you normally see in VTubing. But basically, they included, like, me on it, even though I never really gave them permission to, like, use my name on anything or my images or anything like that. Like, obviously I appreciate like someone being kind enough to like, hey, please support this streamer. But the website was a very interesting way to go about it, to put it nicely. And it almost felt like for lack of a better term, it almost felt like VTuber pimp, the way that like they were like explaining things. So for example, they would put like K or Cinna. They put these, oh, look at, check out K, check out Cinna. Okay. This is what I did for them. I helped them reach, you know, 50 followers on this platform. I helped them reach 100 followers on this platform. I helped them reach, you know, YouTube or Twitch affiliate. And that was what they put like underneath the images or links and things like that of, you know, VTubers that they were supporting. Like the, I did this for them and that's why they're successful kind of thing. And I had to like send that. There was someone who was like, not like deep within my community, but like, you know, came to the streams and like supported and like obviously had my like name and brand on their site. So I had to be like, hey, I sent them like a really nice, calm, but, you know, firm voice message that was like, hey, like, I don't think people are going to enjoy this. I don't think people like always appreciate like, you know, this idea that like, hey, you did this for them, because like, yes, you helped, you contributed, you're entitled to that. However, like they're the ones who started the stream. They're the ones who put in the hours and the time, the energy, the effort, the money. You know, like if it wasn't for them pressing that go live button, you wouldn't have had a streamer to support and put on your site. And for that, I feel like it's a little bit strange for you to phrase this in a way that you are taking credit for their hard work. You know what I mean? And I just like, I don't know how they came up with that or why they came up with that. It was just really weird. I don't know why they did it. It was just, I don't know. Again, I knew that there was someone who was a little bit like socially awkward and they just didn't know any better, I think, to an extent. And also they would just be kind of like strange on other people's streams as well, like just like social stream etiquette, you know? So I sent them that voice message and they actually received it very well. And it was probably one of the only one of the few and only really good stories that came out of like me letting someone know, hey, what you're doing may be making me uncomfortable, and thus probably making the other people that are on whatever you're doing uncomfortable as well. You know what I mean? And they did take my name off, and they changed some of their phrasing and stuff like that. I don't know if that site still exists, to be honest. It might not. But at the end, like, by the end of that, they changed it all. And they also started acting a little bit more respectful on stream. And then a little bit later down the line, I noticed that they were changing, and that they were making effort to be more, making other people's more comfortable. And I messaged him, and I was like, hey, I see that you're putting in effort, and I appreciate that. And like, you're doing great, and please like continue to reflect on your actions and how they affect other people, and like things like that, because like if you are making effort to do something, I'm gonna reward you, okay? Because it's something that I feel like should be appreciated. I'm not just gonna yell at you. Like, I'm not just gonna yell at you or talk to you like when you make me upset. Like, I'm gonna talk to you when I see effort put in as well. You know what I mean? Like, because I think that's important. And now that person is like, I'm actually like low-key proud of that person, because they have made so many like changes, and I see a lot of growth in them now. And I think it's really great and amazing. And honestly, like, I know maybe it sounds a bit weird, but I've seen so much change, and how they interact with others is a lot, like, significantly better than like the way that they were before. And like, I'm low-key like proud of them for that, because it's just like, it's great to see. It's great to know that people have it in them to grow and to change and to reflect. We all do, but a lot of people just ignore that. Which I know it's hard, but but yes, we love growth, and I'm glad that it happened. And anyway, I don't know where I was going with that story, but I guess it's just something else that I think people don't talk about is you can get strange people that come to your stream, and just it throws you so off. You just like don't expect it. You don't expect it at all. How people are going to treat you on stream, and you just have to deal with it like live, and that's like the hardest part too, because you're just like, I'm live, you're getting like, you're trying not to like give them a reaction that is negative, but at the same time you're like, because you don't want to come off as like a biatch, but at the same time you're like, I gotta like put my foot down because they are making me uncomfortable. That sucks. I don't like being put in those situations at all. Anyway, yes, sorry. What were we talking about? Oh god, we're talking about shy introvert people. That's right. Or quote unquote shy introvert people. Yeah, but there are a lot of personalities, I think, in VTubing that are tough to deal with. Are just period. Just period, but sorry, I'm just checking the chat and just seeing what people are saying. Kay is saying there are a lot of people out there that do this, and say some really strange and uncomfortable things, right? Or people who DM your VTuber accounts constantly or stuff like that, right? That is also true, Kay. I can't tell you how many times I had people DM me about problems, and like the same problem, and this is something that happens like even with like regular friend groups. Let's be real, someone will just DM you about the same problem over and over and over again, and it's just kind of at the point where like, what do I say? What else could I say that could help the situation? And pretty much every time that like I put my foot down, I was like, hey, like, you want the truth, you want the honest truth, like, here's what I think you could do, here's my advice, like. And also, like, if you want to fix the problem, this is what you would probably need to start working on, or at least get, like, a therapist or someone else to talk to you about it. But I can't really do much for you. I'm happy to listen, but, like, I'm not sure what you expect from me when you like, are yelling on about these things. I've had to put my foot down and say that to people before, and almost every time they've been, like, they just ghosted me after that. So, yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. Cinna says, I've had to do that with people oversharing things in chat about their personal life troubles, right? Also, I have had to do that with people who came into my chat and just cause fights and issues. I don't get why people do that. I don't understand why people just, like, in the chat want to just, like... someone came to my chat when I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. They were like, oh, how's it playing the worst Assassin's Creed game? I'm like, first of all, how did you find me? Where did you come from? Okay? Where did you come from? You probably came from searching on Twitch, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I was like one of the few people that was streaming it, and you came onto my stream. You searched this game, okay? How are you going to say this is the worst game ever and then proceed to stay on the chat and just be complaining? Like, if you don't like the game, then don't stay. Then leave. What do you want me to do? Get off the game? Just stop. Like, oh yeah, you're right. You know what? Because you said this is the worst game ever, I'm gonna uninstall. I'm gonna quit VTubing. I'm gonna like, what is this, man? It's the weirdest thing ever. People just love to be angry on the internet. It's like it's the funniest thing. I was saying this before, like when the Big C happened, but I feel like people were so angry during that time of the Big C where everybody had to stay inside because like they couldn't go outside, they couldn't live their life. So now they're just like all they do is spend time on the internet being angry at other people instead of like touching grass and I don't know, going up on a mountain and screaming or something like that and just like living their life. I don't know, like they're just so angry. And like I just remember that during that time of like the Big C and you know, there was just so much like more, there was such an increase of like drama and just like things happening in the world that was just like crazy. And I feel like it happened because so many people were cooped up inside. And it sucks because now we're so used to being cooped up inside and used to talking and being angry and raging on the internet that now everybody's raging and talking and being angry on the internet. It's just like, oh my God. It's like such an awful place, man. I don't know. I try to like limit myself with like what I do online because I just feel like too much of it is just complete brain rot and I don't have much brain left, okay? Anyway, Kay says the amount of people that have come into my chat and started off with this is the only thing bringing relief from my dead blank or stuff like that. How am I supposed to word my response? Oh gosh, I know. I know it's the worst thing. People really do be like that. People really be like, someone just passed away and now I'm here. And I'm like, shouldn't you be handling that, homie G? Oh my gosh. Yeah, so there was this, I've never told this story ever before because it's a very sensitive story. But I can tell y'all, because I love y'all, I'm just kidding, because I'm in the rack form, I can tell y'all. But it is a sensitive story, so just trigger warning somewhat. It's not like super bad. Well, it is super bad, but there's like this thing that happened, and I've never talked about it on stream, ever. So just forgive me if I'm trying to piece together this story a little bit as I'm talking. But there was someone that I met in the community a very long time ago when I got started, and they were young, like they weren't like a minor. I don't think they were young though. They were like probably like, they weren't in like their 20s, I'll say. They were like 18 at least, but I could just tell by like the way they talked that they were not like a young adult or like adult, I guess I should say, because I always think that I'm a young adult, but I'm not. Anyway. Sorry, I'm a boomer. But I just have a childlike brain, so I think that I'm young. Anyway, crying in the club. Anyway, they were a little bit younger for sure, just by their demeanor, the way they talked. But I befriended them from, again, I think they were someone who was like, I'm shy, you know what I mean? And they DM'd me, and then I just was like, oh sure, we can chat, y'all. Let's go. And they were like going through, like they had gotten one model and were about to do something with that, but then they decided to get another model instead and then rebrand with that instead, or like use that model instead. And during that time they were also like talking to me, and they learned about like my my lore, and they started to build their lore off of my lore, which made me very uncomfortable. Because like, you know, my lore is for Kōri, you know, and it's like they didn't ask for permission either to like, hey, I'm gonna use your lore to build mine. They just did it, and they sent it to me, and I was like, oh, this is like, I had to like find a nice way to be like, hey, you have original ideas for your characters, and I think you should use it. And like, you know, like this is like Kōri's story, and like the world is different from like what you're describing. So like, I think you should like, you know, focus on your story and like building your character, because I know it's gonna be amazing. Like, I had to like very like nicely say like, you should not be doing this. And yeah, so that was weird. But basically, this is a little bit sensitive. This is where it gets sensitive here. I talked to them like many times. They were nice for the most part. You know, they're a little bit awkward sometimes, but it was okay. You know, we all are. And then they like introduced me somewhat to like their cousin. And I know that sounds weird, but they were also like a VTuber, I guess. And they introduced me to them, and I was like, oh, hi, okay, cool, nice, right? And then one day, I'm streaming, and their cousin comes onto my stream, follows me, and starts typing the chat. And they're like, hey, there's something that you need to look at in your DMs. I sent you a DM. It's regarding, you know, your so-and-so, the person that I'm talking about. And I'm like, okay, well, I will check it after stream, if that's okay. And they were like, it's really important. Like, can you please check it now, kind of thing. There was like urgency to it. And I was like, yeah, I just have a rule where like I don't check my DMs during stream, because I get really distracted, and then like, you know, then I'm like not really able to stream, because I'm like, you know, I made a joke out of it, and they're like, okay, but please check it as soon as you're done. So they left the chat, and then I ended stream eventually, and then I go into my DMs, and they DM'd me telling me that that person committed the big S. And I wasn't I know this may sound insensitive, but initially, and even now, I'm not sure if it was real or true or not, because and I'm sorry if this sounds insensitive. I know this is a really, you know, picky like a really weird topic to be talking about, but it was only because of the way that they talked and the way that they brought up the conversation as well, like about what had happened, you know, like that. I didn't get it, obviously, like I didn't get any details about like how it happened or anything like that. I just found out that it happened, that like they just told me that it happened, and I was like, okay, I'm sorry that happened, like that, obviously being compassionate and treating it as if it was real. But I couldn't tell if it was real because of the way that they went about sharing it. And you know, I don't know, it was hard because like it just seemed like an interact bait, because like I think the next time that cousin came onto my stream, they mentioned it. They mentioned like, oh yeah, we're having like the funeral for so and so, or we're like doing this for so and so, and I'm just kind of like, why are you here saying that? And then if you are having this family emergency, why is the first thing that you're doing is messaging me? I'm just some person on the internet. Like I'm like, they don't even know who I am, you know? And it was just like, it was a really weird situation that I just can't tell if it was real or not, because it was like, I've seen people do this like on like Facebook a long time ago in like my roleplay groups. Like, I know this sounds dumb, but they would just like pretend like there was a family emergency happening, and we all could tell it really wasn't happening. I don't really know how else to explain it, but I know that this has happened before. It's like a weird high school way of like getting attention. So that's why I wasn't sure if it was real or not. And obviously, like, I'm not gonna go and like, I don't have any of their personal information. So it's not like I'm going to like look up, oh, are they actually gone? But it was just like, obviously so I didn't know at the time. And obviously, like, even after that point, I checked their profile and they haven't posted anything. They're inactive. But they very easily made a second profile before. I'm sure they can very easily make a third profile and just like leave all this behind. And I also remember, if I remember correctly, this person had also posted things that were kind of like weird in the sense like, oh, like if I just didn't stream at all, would you guys still care about me kind of thing? Or like, do you guys actually care about me? Or like, who's actually my friend kind of thing? Like, things like that. They kind of like posted these really weird tweets that just were like kind of like interact me, kind of like attention seeking. And that's why like I couldn't tell if it was genuine or not, like if something really did happen. And obviously my heart goes out to their family if something really did happen. That's a horrible thing. It's traumatizing. It's real, and it sucks, and it's sad. And I'm so sorry if like this comes across as insensitive. It's not my intention. It's just that like things like this are also things that we don't talk about because it's very serious, and it's like we don't want to come across as like insensitive, right? I really don't want to, but I can't help but kind of seem like I am because I'm over here saying I don't know if it's real or not. You know, I don't want to doubt that some horrible thing has happened to somebody because it is so horrible. Like, I don't want to doubt that, but I'm put in a situation, in a spot where like I kind of do. And like, honestly, I kind of do. Genuinely, it's really weird. So I don't know. And no one talks about like how people really act in DMs. People act the fuck up, y'all. Okay, it's real shit. And it's really scary. And it makes me so uncomfortable. And that's why I totally understand people like Kay and others that like, including myself, that like get anxious or worried or just so scared like when you have to engage with others in the VTubing space, because some people in VTube in any community, so a lot of people don't realize in any community there are just these handful of people that will go through really extreme lengths to just get attention or to be a nasty human being. Just to be a nasty human being. I don't know. Anyway. DMs stand for death messages. That's what is said in the chat, and I agree with that 100%. Yes. Anyway, thank you, chat, for understanding where I'm coming from. Because as Guchan says it, you're right. Like, sometimes people just spread misinformation. And again, you can't verify if that's real or not. And yeah, so yeah, thanks for understanding my point of view there. And I'm sure y'all have had similar situations where people are coming into your chat. Like, the reason why I brought it up is because people come into your chat saying, oh, so-and-so passed away. Now I'm here. You know, it's like, well, if you're dealing with a family emergency, then please handle that family emergency. But I also understand there are many people that don't know how to handle it. I remember, like, this is kind of personal, but I remember, like, when I was younger, a family member passed away, and one of my older cousins, like significantly older than me, one of my older cousins, like, was just having a really hard time, like just crying nonstop, having to run to the bathroom constantly, just breaking down. And after that day, we had talked again, and he was like, Kōri, like, how did you handle, like, how are you, like, so, like, how are you not breaking down crying right now? Like, how are you not, like, you know, just, like, bawling your eyes out and things like that? And I was like, well, this isn't, like, the first, you know, death that I had in my life. I had a couple before this one. And it just, like, a moment like that just reminded me that, like, again, everybody handles, like, death differently. I understand that. But, like, if you're really, like, dealing with something, I think we we should try to not just ignore it. I know that like that's like the first stages of like grief, right? Is like pretending, like just ignoring it, just denial, right? But like don't go on somebody else's stream and deny it. Is all I'm saying, okay? It's just such a strange thing. And then like when you're going through a loss, like I feel like we need to acknowledge that, like we need to acknowledge it within ourselves before we are acknowledging it with other people. You know what I mean? And obviously it's like it's just weird. And as Chad is also mentioning, the parasocial relationship is just the strangest thing ever. So anyway, Kay says, don't be scared of DMs. Just cyber stalk them to make sure you know what kind of person they are. True. True. Cyber stalk. 100%. 100%. But even then, because like I feel like so kind of like circling back to what we were talking about earlier, you know, having to promote yourself, right? It's kind of a weird thing. It's kind of weird having to promote yourself. And I feel like when I promote Kōri on my social media, I feel like it's not always a great representation of who Kōri is. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, like, the way that you have to tailor things like Twitter, as I mentioned earlier, a post or a type of post that I think works great is like being able to ask a question to the people online, because people love to share their opinions. As long as it's not like something controversial, because I'm against that personally, but like, you know, I will post like, hey, what did you eat today? You know? Everybody loves food. It's a general common knowledge to love food, right? And people will respond, you know what I mean? But I feel like I'm not like always on stream every 10 minutes. I'm not like, oh, what? I don't know why I suddenly sound like Mickey Mouse. But yeah, I'm not on stream like asking a question every 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Like that's not my content. But you know, so I feel like sometimes like Twitter, for example, doesn't accurately represent. And there's so many people that like, oh my god, something that like I have been dealing with as of recently are people in my DMs like basically blowing up and ruining what they call a friendship with me. TLDR. There's a lot behind this. I'm summarizing. Basically like blowing shit up, you know, just being kind of crazy. And then like saying like, well, you know, sometimes I'd give these kind of people benefit of the doubt. Like, all right, well, let's just wait a little bit. Like, let's just give each other some space and maybe come back to it later. And the next thing I know, I'll see those people on social media, you know, oh, I'm looking for new VTubers to be friends with, or I'm looking for new friends. I'm looking for more people to support. And I'm like, okay, but you can't even you can't even have one friendship and hold that down, and yet you're saying all these things about becoming a better person or working on yourself or wanting to have a friendship, but then you're not seemingly working on yourself. You know what I mean? And if anybody, it sucks because like I know who these people are, but I'm not gonna ever say their names because like that's not the kind of person I am. And I feel like I see people interact with these types of people, with these type of crazies, and they'll never know, you know what I mean? They'll never know how crazy of a person that they are because like just based on their profile, you know what I mean? But obviously cyber stalking does help to an extent. I'm not saying don't do it if you're trying to protect yourself, but I am saying that like a lot of times people can seem really nice or put up a front on social media and then turn around and just be absolutely awful in DMs or just like personally. And that can be rough, you know? And I'm sorry if you've experienced that. And I hope that I've not put people in that situation myself. I try not to. I know that I do. I truly do like think before I type and send things. But sometimes sometimes my emotions do get the best of me, so I know that I'm not perfect. Basically, TLDR, I'm not perfect. I'm sure I've made mistakes in the past. I know that I have. Anyway, yeah, people are crazy. Thank you. Anyway. Kay says two camps of people who respond to that. Ate food. Ate the souls of 20 deceased children. Do you too eat mortal flesh? True. People that respond to the kinds of the question posts. Yes, that's very true. There's also people that, like, when you ask a question, will just like send a paragraph of just like an essay of their response, and the other people just write one sentence. I always think those are funny to experience as well. Oh my god. But yeah, think before you type. That always helps. That always helps to think about what you're typing before you send it. You know, I've never understood people who just like send things and be like, oh, I didn't mean that. But it's like, well, you thought about it and you literally typed it out. You had to go through the extra effort of typing these words out. How can you say that this was a mistake? Oh my god. Anyway, but yeah, and I think like for those, just since we're talking about like VTuber drama, and we're on the topic of like untold secrets and stuff like that, I think the problem with drama in general is that like it may seem appealing to post about drama and like try to like cancel someone who did you dirty. I think depending on what they did, I do think it's important to have, you know, to put out there like, hey, this person is harmful to multiple people, you know what I mean? Like not just yourself, like they're harmful to this type of like to a lot of people, to this community, they're harmful. And obviously like what that definition of harmful is varies from person to person, right? But generally speaking, it's really like it doesn't change much. When you post about drama, like they may get canceled for a couple of days and then after that it's on to the next one, you know what I mean? And it sucks to say, but like I don't think people really learn from that. I think they get the attention from all the drama because it blows up and gives them attention and followers and this and that, and then it just bloats them up even more, and then they makes them want to do it again. And I don't know. I just because like we're on the topic of like people, like if you were new to VTubing and you were getting into it, I'm just saying like I don't think it's a good idea to post about drama. In general, it doesn't really like do much. And then the people that follow you are only following you because you are a drama queen or king or in between. And it's like, do you want those kind of followers? Do you want followers who are just waiting for your downfall? You know what I mean? I don't know. All right, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. All right. Anyway, that was a long stream. I didn't expect this to go on for a very long, for almost 2 hours, but I appreciate y'all contributing to the podcast, to the discussion. We talked about a lot today. To summarize, we talked about one of the topics was finding legitimate programs to run things that don't cost an arm and a leg. You know, obviously we all commonly know VTube Studio, but what about the people who are using VRoid or Blender to make their own things, their own assets? Like, it can be difficult potentially to not just learn those programs, but obviously to find programs that are trustworthy, that work or have enough customization for what you need it for. And that there's not a lot, like maybe it's a little bit better now, but sometimes there's not a lot of tutorials on the particular thing that you need, especially for like VTubing, because it's kind of like, it's not like people know what it is, but it's still a little bit like growing, you know what I mean, as most things are. So there's not always a lot of tutorials on like VTubing things particularly. And obviously a lot of programs cost a lot of money in order to, like, good programs cost money. And when you're just doing VTubing for fun or on a budget, it can be difficult to find those that are budget friendly and obviously work well. Another topic that we discussed was realizing that, yay, you're probably not going to blow up when you start doing VTubing. It's hard to come to terms with sometimes, but, you know, you're not going to be whole alive as soon as you start, right? But finding value and worth within that small community that you have built so far is something that is it's great, and that, you know, you kind of have to learn to appreciate more and become more passionate about. And obviously becoming more passionate and excited about the things that you do yourself. You can't expect anyone else to be excited for you for your projects. You just have to do the projects yourself, be passionate and excited about it. And then when you release it or do it, having very little expectations for, you know, how many people are going to receive it. It might not pop off. And are you going to be okay with that? you know? And that's the biggest thing. You should be okay with it. You should be just happy that you even did the project at all and proud of yourself. And if you are curious, I'm proud of you for doing those things, okay? Because I understand it is a lot of work to work on those off-stream projects and whatnot. And yeah, it's great. Another thing we talked about was commissions. Trying to commission artists can be very difficult. You know, the GFX artists, those scammers are everywhere, and they're getting better. Obviously, you can tell, most of us, but if you were new to the community, you wouldn't know. There's a lot of people who still get, like, the only reason why the GFX artist scams still exist is because people are still falling for it, right? So it's very unfortunate. They're getting better at blending in with the community, all right? And unfortunately, you know, things like that make it really hard for VTubers to find, you know, trustworthy commissioners. And even if they are trustworthy, sometimes they make mistakes, or they don't deliver on time, or they ghost you. They're unprofessional because most of them, if not all, are freelance artists that have never actually had a professional job. So they don't really know how to be professional. So there's things like that. And obviously things like Skeb, where it's like, what is Skeb? You know, a lot of people ask that question. But in general, commissions are something that I don't feel like a lot of people talk about, and the hardships that come with commissioning, because there are so many horror stories with those, which is just a whole other topic that I will eventually talk about on stream one day on one of the Dumpster Fire podcasts. Anyway, and also that another topic, a lot of people don't really seem to research or do enough research for themselves. Please do research if you can. You know, everyone absorbs information different, and you're going to use information that you absorb to tailor, you know, your character, for your stream, right? So, like, do it, all right? Don't continuously, you know, bug people in DMs about how they did this or that. Try to figure it out yourself first. If you want a second opinion, I think it's fine to ask others, but constantly asking on Twitter because you're too lazy to do it yourself, you know, like, it's not always helpful for yourself to do. So you're doing yourself a disservice by, you know, doing things like that. Like, just do the research. You'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Anyway, another topic that we discussed was gatekeeping. There are a lot of people that gatekeep information. It's very unfortunate, but at the same time, people don't always listen as well. I've talked about my project so many times on stream, and I'm not saying that y'all aren't listening, but I'm just saying, like, you know, people that have all these questions about, oh, how do I mix and master? How do I, you know, do a cover song? How do I make a game? You know, things like that. Like, obviously, like, I love to share that information, but some people are just, like, asking and then, like, running with the information, and it's like, sometimes I understand why, to a certain extent, why some VTubers don't want to share that information, because they might have been done dirty by people like that, people who just take and run. But in general, like, a lot of big VTubers, I think, don't talk about how much it takes to have a 3D concert, or to a 3D event in general, things like that, a cover song, you know. And I wish that was something that we talked about more. You know, it's a lot of work. There's so much that goes into it, and unfortunately we just don't talk about it. We were also talking about promoting yourself, how that can feel a little bit wrong and weird sometimes, but it's kind of necessary. And there are ways to go about it that make you feel more comfortable. And obviously, you know, as a VTuber, everyone knows that you have to do it, so don't worry. We all understand. We all understand. Finally, one of our last topics was discussing how people who claim, oh, I'm shy, I'm an introvert, can actually be some of the craziest people that you will engage with in DMs. So please be careful for people that do that. And obviously, I would say to people who really are shy, introverted, know that there are ways to learn about other people's characters, and, as Kay said, cyber stalk them, but I don't mean that, but you know what I mean. Just, like, you know, check out their streams, check out, like, who they are, and see if you would vibe with them, and maybe then reach out. The worst that could happen is that they're like, I I'm not, you know, I'm not really interested in looking at friends or you know, I don't think that we would vibe. And that's it. And at least you know that you wouldn't vibe with them. You can move on to the next person. You know what I mean? But just don't, like, I don't recommend posting things like, I'm shy, I'm an introvert, boohoo, please come rescue me. Because I feel like that's just interact bait and very unfortunate when you get people that are just crazy in your DMs, or vice versa. Maybe you're the crazy one in DMs. All right, I'm looking at y'all. Okay, I'm watching. Got my eyes, my raccoon eyes. I'm just kidding. Anyway. Yes, that was the gist of the topics that we discussed today. Thank you for hanging out, y'all. And I appreciate y'all. I hope everyone stays safe and stays healthy. Stay hydrated. Take care of yourselves. There's so many things about VTubing that I've come to learn. The biggest thing for me is that I've enjoyed about VTubing is what I've learned about myself, really. I've learned so much about my character, how I want to interact with others, how I want to, you know, portray Kōri and my content. And honestly, like, if nothing else, that is going to be the biggest thing that I take away from VTubing, is all the things that I've been able to learn for myself. And I hope that people continue to reflect on their actions, how they're treating others, and what they are learning about themselves through their projects, through content creation and whatnot. Because it's an amazing thing, and there's so much to learn. Never stop learning about yourself. That's how you mature, that's how you grow, that's how you become a better person. And that is why we have Dumpster Fire Podcast, because we talk about shit that we don't usually talk about in the VTuber community, and we talk about weird shit and how weird the community is and how much we hate VTuber. No, okay. But yes, everybody, please take care and be you, and I appreciate y'all and all that good stuff, and sleep well. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna go drink some of this toilet water, if you don't mind. If you don't mind, but drink this toilet water, okay? And eat some snacks. That's what we're gonna do, all right? Excuse me as I just zoom in here and tilt myself to drink this water.